Welcome to the Health Fix podcast, where health junkies get their weekly fix of tips, tools, and techniques to have limitless energy, sharp minds, and fit physiques for life. Dr. Serena and Dr. Heidi, welcome to the Health Fix podcast.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Oh my gosh, how could I not? After we had such a fun time on your guys' podcast, I'm like, we have to geek out and talk a little bit more here on hormones and peptides. Now, of course, I always love to start podcasts out about learning a little bit more about the two of you in terms of like what brought the two of you to naturopathic medicine, and how did you end up becoming work besties? How did this all go down? Did you study together? What happened?
Oh yeah.
Well, for me, I always was interested in medicine growing up. And then I learned about naturopathic medicine when I was in undergrad, because I was working for like a chiropractor and like getting more into like learning about all the different alternative medicines. And he opened me up to it. And then I was like, oh, that does everything that I am interested in, because I was really into like plants and herbs and how those have been used throughout, like for medicine and throughout history. And anyways, so that's how I found out naturopathic medicine. And I was like, oh, I can help people and learn all these other modalities that I've been drawn to. And so that's why I went to naturopathic medicine. But then we just met in school, and I'll let you tell your beginnings.
I have always loved medicine too, but I didn't know about naturopathic medical school or naturopathic medicine at all until I had a friend who was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And she was given like 6 months to live. And we did everything we could. Her youngest daughter was best friends with my oldest daughter. And so we did everything we could to try to find ways to, prolong her life or maybe hopefully get rid of it. We ended up getting her about 3 years. And one of the things, or several of the things that we did, was she had seen an ND and like had done all of this natural stuff. And we really got into it. And then I started researching it, and her and I just got into all these things that we were trying together. It got her about 3 more years. She did end up passing. She actually ended up passing away. She told me I needed to go to ND school because I had already decided to go back to school. And the day she died was the day that NUNM's applications opened. Oh, wow. So I was like, well, okay, I guess that's a sign. Maybe I should do it, because she told me to, and she literally died on the day that the applications opened. So I did it, and then her and I were in the same cohort. I was obviously a little older, but she is kind of an old soul, so we got along better than a lot of other people in the cohort, just because, not that we didn't get along with the other people, it was just we mashed better,
we're in the same part of the classroom because we both preferred to like alternate between the sitting and standing desks
and be in the back.
And so proximity started the relationship. And then we did birth students together. So we delivered a lot of babies together while we were interning as birth students, which is bonding in its own way.
Yeah.
Wow. Being up all night and then being like, oh, let's go take a final.
Yeah. Studying in between contractions. It was fun.
Yeah. So, and then, we both have struggled with hormone issues our whole lives. And that's why we wanted to focus on women's health and specifically hormones. And, then we just became better and better friends and had like really similar goals for when we got out of school, and similar work ethics, which is helpful.
Yes.
When working with someone else trying to grow a business. That's pretty much it.
Oh, wow. It's funny how, we develop the bonds in school and based on like studying and what kind of things you're grinding with together. And yes, the nurse midwife and all that kind of side of things where, you're up all night. I did not experience that. So, I did notice like a lot of people that did that track and did those kind of things were much more like connected, because there was a lot of bonding there going on. So.
Well, you also just spend like so many hours together because you're like, oh, this is good. We're going to be here for like 12 hours. So,
well, and you have to really work as a team when you're helping to deliver a baby, because you have to know everybody's roles and everybody has to do what they have to do. So you have to be able to trust who you're doing it with. So I think that's why, like, when we did graduate and everything, it was kind of a no-brainer to start a business together, because we already trusted each other. We already knew what our work ethics were like, and
And how you respond under high stress situations. So
yes, that's true.
that's you know, something to be said. So now, like, looking at your practice now, are you guys delivering babies? Are you doing that too in this practice? Okay.
No, we got our certification, but then we decided not to actually like maintain the license for midwifery, because in like Washington and Oregon you can be an ND midwife, and we just decided that
we didn't want to be on call.
If there was two more of us,
we just didn't want to be on call anymore.
Yeah, if there was two more of us where we could actually, like, because you have to be a birth team. You can't just like, we could not alternate between each other being on call, because you have to have two people. Like, if something happens, you have to have like one doctor managing baby, one doctor managing mom, if there's two emergencies for each. And so we would be on call all the time. So if there was two more of us to have a separate birth team, we would have considered it, but it would just being the two of us, it was like, yeah.
We still work really closely with the birth center and all of the midwives in our area. So I'm the consulting pediatrician and consulting doctor for the Bridge Birth Center in Vancouver. And so we see a lot of the pregnant women, we see a lot of the babies, and then we start doing all the pediatric care as soon as they're born too. So we still get to have all the fun. We just don't have to be up all night or on call all night.
Hey, there's something to be said about that. I mean, I know I was like, nope, not gonna do that. I like sleeping way too much. So it makes sense. But yeah, I think for a lot of people who are listening to the podcast, they might not have known that naturopaths can help in, that arena. And so it's kind of fun to highlight a little bit extra area there. And in terms of pediatrics, that's another area that a lot of folks don't necessarily realize that naturopaths can be helpful in this case, and that we actually can help. And now I'm also like opening my eyes up to like, okay, so you're seeing women, you're working with hormones, and you're working with their kiddos. So we've got a broad range here of like the whole, I'm going to say the whole family, but also I'm going to say all the women in the family. And this is something that I love talking about, ripple effect of how, when we work with mom and then we can work with kiddos, we can help educate kiddos on this aspect of health too. Have you guys enjoyed working with seeing the kiddos growing up and the teens and moms too?
It's actually very weird seeing the kids that like you saw when the mom was pregnant with those kids, and you're just like, wow, how are you already so old? It's because you don't see them every day, so you see them at these little snippets of time when they're coming in for their well child. But we actually have several families where we see the grandma, the mom, the teenage girl, possibly another grandkid, just in the mix there, or other babies and stuff. So we see definitely lots of generations of families.
Or you see the whole like help the mom get pregnant, and then you see her kid, and then let's get pregnant again, and then now you got two kids with her, and like all those fertility. So yeah, it's definitely layered in.
Yeah. It's fun.
It's so much fun. And I love it when, folks are doing that, because definitely it helps with the education, which of course us naturopaths, we're all about like teaching and helping, and definitely with the younger population. I think this is a really big opportunity for us to be able to share some of the wisdom there and not let it be lost. Not that I think it's going to be, but that it's helping.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it is rewarding to work with kids, and preventative medicine is the easiest to start when you're a newborn.
100%. And that's kind of what I love for folks, to hear on the podcast is like preventative health starts with the newborn. And then of course, then we sometimes go along our own little ways through life, and then we end up at perimenopause and menopause, and we're like, now what do we do?
Yeah.
And you guys have this, this great ability to know what to do with muscle. And I think it's, a lot of people are hearing like protein, but it's so much more than that. Mm-hmm. Tell us more. Tell us more than the protein. What is it more than the protein? How does this work?
So like muscle isn't just about like tone and power. It's a huge vital organ for your metabolism, your hormones, your brain. Healthy muscle helps you regulate blood sugar. It helps support bone health. It helps support bone strength, keeps your hormones balanced. And after menopause, or even during perimenopause, maintaining muscle becomes so much more important, because studies show that women with lower muscle mass are up to 5 times more likely to experience cognitive decline or dementia. And that's really, to kind of put it together, like that's because active muscles release key brain supporting compounds like BDNF alpha, which is brain derived neurotropic factor, and IGF-1, which is insulin like growth factor. These help keep your brain nice and sharp, your mood balanced, and your blood vessels nice and healthy so that you can stay healthy for longer. And like less muscle also means less movement, so less independence and fewer chances for social and mental engagement. And these are all essential for long-term brain vitality. So like muscle is not just, looking good and looking toned. It's really about your longevity and how you feel and how you get to interact with the community around you.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I don't think I would have thought about all of that, and I think unfortunately that's kind of how we're marketed to, right? We don't think about like the ripple effect, the all of the downstream effect of having extra muscle. And also just in general, I think a lot of people are kind of thought that like to get protein in, they've got to and to build the muscle, they've got to just eat protein powder, shakes, more protein, Tell us a little bit about how you're guiding folks. Like, yes, there's the workouts and those kind of things. There's creatine, there's this and that. What kind of recommendations do you make on like a Whole Foods all the way up to supplemental level to kind of help women tackle this?
You want to take this one?
Yeah. So really it's multi-layered. So if you're not working out, I usually say you should start with about 90 grams of protein per day, but it's super important to start with a 30-gram protein meal for breakfast and then divide those up throughout the day. Because if you just like mass eat protein, that's not going to be great on your digestion. But so that's like the minimum. But if you're working out, then that's when you increase protein, because you actually need more protein to build the muscle. Just eating protein is not going to build the muscle. We'll get into that in a second. But for working out, you want to have like 1 gram of protein per your ideal body weight, or like the body weight that you're shooting for when you have all that muscle. That being said, when you're building muscle, you have to actually go and do the strength training. If you're not doing strength training, you're not really going to build any muscle. It doesn't matter what you eat or what supplements you take. You're not going to build muscle unless you tell your body that you need to make more muscle fibers. And how you do that is the strength training. And you have to lift heavy, and you have to consistently increase the load as you start to max out, as you start to if that gets easy, then you need to go up and you need to consistently load heavier weights each time to get the feedback to actually build the muscles. So that's really important as well. And then the other thing, if you do want to talk about supplements, like yes, creatine is going to be helpful. And then we really like Urolithin A is going to be really helpful for building muscles and also just for recovery, because it really helps the mitochondria and the whole, if you're working out without any rest or without good recovery support, then you're not going to be able to build the muscle because you're just tearing it down all the time. So you do need to balance those good supplements with rest periods, with progressive training to actually build muscle.
Yes. And keep it.
Yes. And keep it.
Yes.
But that being said, hormones also play a huge role in being able to do those things. So for one, estradiol is huge, and people are always like, oh, it's testosterone. Testosterone helps you do all that. Yes, testosterone is huge too. Testosterone is going to help you build and maintain muscle strength, but estradiol actually is really important for recovery as well as maintaining the muscle strength. So a whole approach when it comes to building muscle throughout life, but especially in perimenopause and menopause.
Makes sense. It's funny you had hinted on it because you're and to keep it, because I think a lot of people think okay, I build the muscle, I get the muscle, I eat the protein, I take the creatine, I just don't have to work out as hard, I keep it.
That's not how it works. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. You really have to keep building. You have to keep tricking your muscles. You have to keep telling them that you're progressively adding more so that they build more muscle. The other thing I will say really quick, because creatine is hard on some women, so it depends on the actual creatine that you use. So you want to get a creatine that is not going to give you migraines. A lot of women cannot handle just regular creatine monohydrate. It's hard on their system and it'll give them migraines or headaches, or it just kind of makes them feel off. So there are certain kinds of creatines that women can process better. And one of my favorite ones is actually a Design for Health product, but it's Nox Synergy, Nox Synergy, and it's got the correct creatine in it, and it just goes in my water. It tastes like watered down grape Kool-Aid for all those old people out there that, you know, used to drink Kool-Aid when we thought it was awesome back in the day in the 80s, you know. But it kind of tastes like a little bit of watered down grape Kool-Aid. But I just put it in my water bottle and I drink it all day long.
Huh. And did you find that for yourself? You were getting migraines with the creatine?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep, because I used to take the regular creatine and I would always get headaches afterwards. And I didn't really put two and two together until I was doing some studies on something else. And I was reading about creatine and like how the monohydrate is harder for us women to actually
also
digest.
Also on that note, a lot of women feel really bloated on the monohydrate. And so then they're like, I don't want to take it if it's going to make me bloated. So the other one is also less bloating. So if that's the concern, then that's why you've been having trouble getting like women to take creatine. Switching it up to that different form is going to be helpful.
It just needs, so like the one in Nox Synergy, it just needs to be chelated with something, because when it's chelated with something, it goes down easier and we can digest it easier and absorb it better. So like the Nox Synergy one is chelated with magnesium.
Good to know. Good to know. Because yes, I have had people talk about the headaches. I've had people talk about, I've seen like I'm swelling, and then they're like, we got to check my kidneys, because of course there's some talk about how hard that can sometimes be on the kidneys. So then people think their kidneys are dying slowly because of it. So we have to look at it. And then, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but like a lot of fitness folks are like, oh, you can take like 15 grams or 20 grams a day of it. And I'm like,
that will hurt your kidneys. That is too much for your kidneys. Your kidneys have to process all of that, and that's just too much.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Hey, probably a good thing to chat about, just because it's a thing that someone might see, is on the metabolic panels when they look at their labs and someone's taking creatine, they might see the creatinine go up. What kind of things do you say to folks when you see it and you're like, okay, so you're taking, creatine, this is a normal rise, this is not a normal rise? I'm super curious, your advice.
We do see it a lot, and I see it mostly in my perimenopause, postmenopause women, because I do have them doing all of these things to try to keep their muscle and build their muscle. And so I'll see it, but just a slight little rise, I'm not worried about, especially if everything else in the kidneys looks fine. If it was a huge rise, then we're definitely going to have some conversations. But generally speaking, what I see is just a teeny little dip above the normal range. And we have to remember, these normal ranges are built on older men, not our bodies. So the ranges, they're neither here nor there. But if it's just a tiny little rise, I'm not too worried about it, especially if everything else looks good.
But also on that note, I also find that if I retest them when they're well hydrated, it usually goes away. So making sure people are actually drinking enough water usually resolves that problem in most cases. And then really monitoring the EGFR. If that hasn't changed, then I'm like, okay, we're probably pretty good there. We're not actually affecting the kidneys. We're just seeing the supplementation.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you said hydration. You could definitely call someone out on it, on that one. So that's kind of fun.
All the time.
All the time. Yes. I'm like, yeah, you said this, but your lab showed me something very different.
Yeah.
We are such great accountability buddies, aren't we?
Yeah. It's quite fun.
I love it. I love it. So, of course, you had talked about estrogen and testosterone and its relation to muscles and how we kind of look at this, because women and men, everybody thinks just testosterone for muscles. But like you said, estrogen has a big play here. And I would love for you guys to kind of explain a little bit of that, but also kind of give us the thing, because what a lot of women will say is like, I feel like I'm getting a little pooch in my belly, and I used to never have that. And I have the muscles, but the pooch in the belly's happening It's got to be testosterone. It's not estrogen. I need more testosterone is what I'll hear from a lot of women.
Yeah.
Please help us. Help us.
Okay.
Explain
So
that concept.
yeah. So, okay. So first of all, I do like testosterone, and I supplement women on it all the time because people always forget testosterone is our number one sex hormone. We make our ovaries make 4 times more testosterone than they do estradiol. So I do like testosterone, but it is not just testosterone. And if you are not having the correct pathways, if you have inflammation, if you have other things driving in your liver, you're going to convert that testosterone into estrogen. So then your belly pooch is going to get a lot bigger. So you have to do things all around the correct way. Estrogen in and of itself, I love it. It's great for the whole body. It does so much more than just regulate your cycle or help you get pregnant. It also is a huge, powerful muscle protector. So like the main form, estradiol, which is what the best one is, I think, except for if you're pregnant, then it's estriol. But estradiol, which is what everybody knows about because that's what's in the patches and everything for HRT. It helps your body repair and rebuild muscle because it activates special muscle stem cells. So they're satellite cells. They're the stem cells of the muscles. It helps reduce inflammation and it helps prevent muscle breakdown. So when estrogen levels drop, especially like during perimenopause or menopause, or if there's some other thing going on when they're younger, these repair systems slow down and then muscles don't recover or grow as easily. So it's not just testosterone that grows your muscles, it's also estrogen. And if you don't have these recover satellite cells going with you, then it leads to muscle loss, which is sarcopenia, and it's a higher risk of weakness, falls, fatigue. Testosterone helps in it too. So you kind of need like everything together. It can't just be testosterone that you do all alone because you need the estrogen, you need the progesterone. They all help in building and preventing muscle loss.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, unfortunately, we definitely have some folks that are convinced that all they need is testosterone and maybe a little progesterone, but estrogen gets like kind of demonized because, you know, the whole concept of extra estrogen. Everyone's like, I'm going to be puffy. I'm going to gain weight. Well, you know, and so there is that like fear.
Yeah, it's actually funny because you're more puffy and you gain more weight when your estrogen is too low. Mm-hmm. So with hormones, as you know, with hormones, there's optimal levels, right? And there's optimal balances. If you're too high, you have all these symptoms. If you're too low, you have all these symptoms. If you're in the middle, that's where everything's great. That's why when you're in your teens, in your 20s, as long as nothing else is going on, like other hormonal issues, that's when you feel great. That's when you can eat a freaking whole pizza and not gain an inch, you know, like those kinds of things. You have to have the balance. So there's a lot of swelling that comes in perimenopause and menopause because you're not having enough estradiol. And yes, it can happen when you have too high of estrogen too. It's all about the balance. And like with HRT, especially, you're getting an optimal range. It's not just, I'm going to put you so high that you're going to have the estrogen dominance, because we're also doing progesterone and we're also maybe doing testosterone depending on the person. So it's all about keeping everything in balance. And then you don't have those symptoms.
Yeah. We actually joke all the time because I am pregnant right now and she is in perimenopause. So it's like we have the same symptoms because mine are too high and hers are too low. Yeah. And it's like a really funny thing to live through together.
Yeah. It's quite hilarious.
It's so, you know, part of why I love working with hormones, because it's a challenge. You're constantly like thinking like, are they too high or are they too low? Which one is it? You know, and I think for a lot of people, I think it's been placed to them as being cut and dry. It's either this or that, but that's the fun in it. It's, you know, we have to sleuth that out a little bit. Now, of course, you were saying like they have to work together, and you guys love peptides as much as I love peptides. Yeah. So looking at hormones and going, okay, sometimes we can dial in like the sweetest protocol, right? We're like, this is going to be amazing. And we give them all the hormones and they're like, yeah, I feel okay, but maybe you guys get this one on. But my libido is just not there. I've got the hormones and the libido's not there and my belly pooch is still there. What would you typically do then and be like, all right, what peptides can I throw in here to try to help out in this situation? And feel free to tweak it whatever direction you want, but I'm using those two comments because that usually ends up being the like,
you can use me as an example. Like I'm the guinea pig for everything. Nice. So like I've tried all the peptides. I'm on hormone therapy, like all the things. So
Yeah. I mean, well, for one, with the belly stuff, because like usually I won't get into all of it, but like
Usually there's GI stuff too.
there's usually GI stuff that comes along with perimenopause, and it can, when you don't have enough estradiol, you can get more leaky gut. You're not breaking down your food as well. Like, you don't have as much digestive power in general. And so like the pooch that you're talking about might be because like we need to support your GI health. And yes, being on hormones is going to do that. But one of my favorite things to throw in to like expedite things and heal up the lining and everything is to use BPC 157. I feel like it's the little magical thing that you can give women when they're like, I've been eating right and I'm on my hormones, but I'm still having like all this bloating, or like my digestion just is like not great, or like the pooch that you're talking about. I'm like, okay, well, let's do some BPC 157. And they're like, oh yeah, that worked. Everything got better.
And we're talking like it helps with food, and like not all food intolerances, because people are intolerant to different things, but like things that you were never intolerant to before just start becoming intolerant. And like for me, it was gluten. I've eaten gluten my entire life, and I eat very healthy. I eat very clean, but I couldn't even have the littlest bit of gluten without just blowing up.
Yeah,
and
like
I was
really
swollen,
nice sourdough bread. That's like
swollen everywhere, all organic, none of the super processed stuff, right? And I had never had that before. And it just happened with perimenopause. And as we know, like estrobolome is part of your microbiome. And so when you don't have enough estrogen to feed the estrobolome, all of those lactobacilli kind of die off, and then you're not able to break down things the way you did before. But when I started taking BPC 157 and I accidentally had some gluten, I didn't blow up like a balloon, and I didn't have to run to the bathroom for an hour, so it really is great. I actually alternate with a bunch of different peptides and stuff. So, but I'm sure we can get into that too. But they're for all different reasons.
I love it. It's kind of funny because like my family kind of sees me as like this weird peptide drug dealer, because they're like, I got a peptide for that. I've got a peptide for that. Is like their joke with me. But the truth is like I saw the same thing with the BPC. I was the same. I was like, oh my gosh. I was working with a trainer who was trying to like dial in my macros because we were trying to like get me a little more bulky, and whole nother story. But anyway, like. I ended up like I could not do any protein powders. I literally was like to the point where it was like I had like 3 foods that I could maybe eat, and I was like, okay, I'm doing the BPC at this point because that's what I'm like, I've tried all the other things, and then now I can do whey protein. Now I can do back to the gluten, like same like you. And so I just want folks to hear this because I got to the point where I was like, I am gaining weight and I'm not eating anything. Like what gives?
Yeah.
Estrobolome. That's what gives. Ugh, crazy. Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about a little bit of the peptides that you're playing with. I love to hear what people are experimenting with. And
so I did some research, of course, because I'm a geek and I love going down deep dark holes to try to find stuff. And I found some newer research that was talking about how, peptides are not for every day, all day for 365, right? We usually do like a month to 2 months or 2 months to 3 months, depending on what's going on and depending on what you need and all those things. But I came across some research that was, they're in clinical, or they're in studies right now, and they're talking about how using all of the different kinds of, not all of them, but a lot of the different kinds of peptides, like one day, one the next day, one the other one that day, like kind of alternating them has really helped heal the body and restart everything, just kind of like refresh everything. So I started doing that just probably
a month ago.
No, because remember I was sick. I had pneumonia, so I didn't do it when I had pneumonia. I think it was about 2-3 weeks ago.
Beginning of January. She had pneumonia and sorry.
No, but I didn't do it till I got back from Hawaii. For a volleyball tournament. Anyways, I went to a volleyball tournament in Hawaii, and then I came back, and that's when I started doing it, at least religiously. And so right now what I'm alternating, I take BPC every day because that just helps me so much. It helps with the myalgias of perimenopause and postmenopause. It helps with joint issues. It helps with muscle recovery because I lift heavy, and I like a little bit of sore, but I don't like as sore as I would be if I didn't have my urolithin A or my peptides, because I just probably wouldn't walk. I do a combo of BPC 157 and KPV. And then I also do a combo of BPC 157 and TB 500. And then I have another one that I haven't got yet, is the copper one. So I'm going to kind of add that one into the mix too, and basically just become a whole new human. But I'm only going to do that for a couple of months, right? And then I'm going to take some time off, and then I'm going to see how I'm doing. And I'll always take my urolithin A because that definitely helps with recovery and all of that. But as far as the peptides go, you have to cycle them. You can't stay on them forever. And you really don't need to either. You get to a point where you're great after, a couple of months, maybe 3 months at that. I probably were going to do it for 3 months because I had, a bigger start that I needed. So I had a lot more to get over. So I'll probably do it for the 3 months, and then I'll be off of it and see how I do. And then if things start, like if my hormones start kind of being wonky again, because peptides really help your whole body, and they really help optimize your hormones. So I won't have to be on as high of dosing because my hormone receptors won't be inflamed, and everything in all the inflammation in my body will go down. So it helps to optimize all of that. So if, in 6 months, maybe I need to do another round, who knows?
Yeah. But so like in summary, the alternating is like our latest little thing that we're trying. We have been using the KPV and the BPC 157 for like recovery, decreasing inflammation, just kind of like general regenerative aspects for women. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we see the dads too in our clinic, but we do see a lot more women anyways. So we have been using that. And then the TB 500 for really supporting the muscle building. And when women are trying to really gain some muscle, doing like a round of that too. But like the alternating is our latest little, seeing how it goes.
My latest little geeky deep dive.
Let's see how it goes.
I've not played with the alternating as of yet. I have not. I've done like the CLO, which has the KPV and the BPC 157 and the copper JT all together. But I'm like, interesting to split it out and play with it. So now you've given me an idea to geek out on, and we'll have to like share with the crew, like what.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Please do. Please.
So far it feels great. So far it's been great. So
nice. No, you keep mentioning urolithin A, and I'll be honest, I haven't mentioned it on the podcast before. It's not something that is, I would say, in my top repertoire of things that I use. So let's talk about that, because I am very curious as to how you guys are using it, how you're dosing it, what you're up to. Give us a scoop.
I
love it. It's my favorite. I call it my old lady crack.
It's not just old lady crack. I love it too.
She loves it too, but
I'm not taking it right now because obviously it's a newer supplement and we don't really know how it affects pregnancy or anything, but it is derived from pomegranate. So like, I think it would probably be okay, but I'm not. But before, I loved it because I feel like you can just feel how much it helps your mitochondria, because the biggest issue I was having before was horrible brain fog, like after my first kid, and just like recovery from that. And I was just like, man, my brain is just like not what it used to be. And so I started taking urolithin A with some CoQ10, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can think like I used to.
And have more energy.
Yeah, and just have more energy. And I feel like when I was getting back into like my strength training routine, like things were just easier. Like I just felt like pre-baby. I felt like myself pre-baby, maybe even pre-med school when I started taking it. And I was like, this is amazing. But it has other benefits too, and I'll let you talk about that because I had to take a break.
Yeah, definitely. It helps with all of that. But also my biggest thing for it, I love it, is, and I will take it every day, because I do lift really heavy. And so I hate being so sore that I can't walk or sit or stand or go to the bathroom or anything, because, like I really do lift heavy and I love it. And it's how I get my crazies out. That's how I feel great in my body, but it sucks the next day and the next day. So one of the things that I really love about urolithin A is even at just 500 milligrams a day, you it breaks down the lactic acid and removes it faster. So you are not as sore, but you're still gaining all the muscle, and it helps to keep the muscle too. We just went to a conference, and we were talking to one of the distributors about their Urolithin A product, and they're actually coming out with 1,000 milligram capsule instead of just the 500 milligrams. And so of course I started experimenting taking 1,000 milligrams and it's great. I love it. It clears your mind. It helps even more with the soreness. It's not even just the soreness. It gives you more stamina when you are working out. So you feel like you can do more, and you actually can do more. You can lift heavier. It makes it so that you're actually able to do the things you need to do to build the muscle that you need to build and help you keep it, because it won't get broke down as much. Just like we talked about how estrogen helps with the satellite cells, Urolithin A also helps to get the recovery of those muscles too. So it's amazing. You really should try it.
I know. I'm like, well, sold me. All right. Of course, I'm gonna be like, well, give me that 1,000 milligrams. I want to try it out. Oh my gosh.
It really helps with inflammation. So even if you're not working out or anything like that, it just calms inflammation down.
Yeah, the companies that started, offering it as a supplement had some really good studies that actually looked at, and like, I know we talked about like, you got to work out to build the muscle, but they did some studies in like some 70-year-old people, and they were just giving them the Urolithin A even without working out, and their muscle density increased.
I think it was just 500 milligrams too.
Yeah, and it was just the 500 milligrams. They've now have done more studies on the 1,000, and they're seeing more benefit. But it just goes to show that like it has a lot of really great benefit. And just so people know, like it is produced by your microflora in your GI tract. So that when I said from pomegranates, I mean like when you eat the polyphenols from pomegranates and then it goes through your microbiome and they break that down, they produce Urolithin A. So that's really where it originally comes from. So you can make your own Urolithin A, but obviously you can't get to like 1,000 milligrams by just eating more pomegranates with polyphenols. So that's why you got to
That would be a lot of pomegranates.
That's why you got to supplement it. But if you're thinking about like whole food stuff, like that's also how you can drive that too, is increasing your polyphenols. So
that's cool to know. I mean, I feel like I've been geeking out on pomegranate lately. I had a patient send me an article, and I had forgotten about like how pomegranate was researched for arteries and reversing plaquing too. And I'm like, wow, there's so many amazing things with pomegranate, and it helps with the hot flashes, because Chinese medicine's always like, drink your pomegranate juice or eat your pomegranate. And so I'm like, yeah, pomegranate, superfood of my year.
Yep.
Or Urolithin A if you're feeling like going that route. Oh my God.
It does help with hot flashes, and it does help with vasculature too. They're finding in the newer research with the 1,000 milligrams especially, it's helping with all of that inflammation.
Well, guess we got to add that one to the repertoire here, because I mean, how could I say no to all that, and how could I deny anyone from knowing about that? We have to tell everyone. Oh my gosh. So of course we've talked about lifting heavy, we've talked about different types of exercising, and throughout the different stages of life, depending on where someone may be, there may be better styles of lifting. I can speak to this, and I'll turn it over to you guys. CrossFit, not so good for me anymore. Probably more because I wanted to keep up with the 20-year-olds, and I forgot that I was pushing 50. But that's on me. But just looking at fitness, because a lot of people will ask me like, all right, doc, so what does lifting heavy or resistance training mean for me at 40, 50, 60, 70 and beyond? And I'm like, well, that could be wide open, but I'm curious as to what you guys are recommending for folks and how you break it down for them.
Yeah, you want me to take this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Master trainer.
I was a master trainer and a nutritionist before I went to med school, so like it's I love it. It's my jam. So here's the thing, especially in perimenopause and postmenopause and older men too. So it's harder for us to build and keep muscle, as we've kind of already talked about with all the other things going on in our body. So you don't want to stress your body to the point where it's going to break down more. So it's a very fine line when we get to that point. So what I have people do, and it's not everybody is different, so there's different things, but generally speaking, what I have everybody do is, one, they have to walk every day because they need to get movement. That's fine. That's just kind of a non-negotiable. They have to walk, they have to do something, they have to move their body. As far as resistance training, what I have them do is I have them do it 4 days a week, so they're not over stressing their body at one time. And I want them to really focus on one body area at a time. So we'll do a leg day. Well, that includes all of the legs, you know, glutes, abductors, adductors, hamstrings, quads, calves, everything. We'll do a chest and back day. We'll do a core day. And I always remind people, core is all the way around. So it's your back and your front. It is not not just your six pack abs. There's a lot of different kinds of angles that you need to do. And then we have a biceps, triceps, shoulders day. You always want to do opposing muscles when you are working out, because when you contract one, you are stretching the other. So you always want to make sure that you're doing opposing muscles. So I break it down into those 4 groups so that they're able to concentrate on those, because when you do get older, the more you stress your body, the more cortisol comes. And you want to talk about that belly pooch. Even with everything else optimized, if you are having high cortisol or in that fight or flight constantly, you're going to have that belly pooch and you're not going to get rid of it. And you're also going to cause complete and total inflammation throughout your whole body. So we want to make it so that it's not as stressed, but we still want to build that muscle. So I break it down into those 4 days. 4 days is pretty manageable to do, especially because those workouts are generally like a half hour or less, because you're going to go, you know, I always use the example of, like, let's use Planet Fitness as an example, because it's a gym that has all of the machines and a lot of people are starting out from scratch. So I don't want them just heavy lifting in their garage when they don't know what they're doing, because they're probably going to hurt themselves. So I'll use the example. Okay, go use all of the leg machines at Planet Fitness. And I have them do each exercise. What I have them do is, and everybody starts out at different levels, but each time you're going to go up, because that's what's going to trick your muscles into building more. So I have them do 3 sets of 6 each. So each set has 6 reps. And what I have them do is I have them start out, and that first set is going to be, it's going to be kind of hard. You know, it's going to be like, oh yeah, that kind of burns. That's hard. And you get the 6 out. Maybe you could do 7, 8, maybe, but you do the 6. The next set, you're going to go up depending on what the body part is. You might go up by 5 pounds. You might go up by 20 pounds, depending on, you know, your strength. You go up to that next one, that next set of 6, you do those, and it's real hard to get that 6th one out, but you could probably squeak out a 7th one. That's how heavy you want to go. The next set, which is the last set for that particular exercise or machine or whatever, you're going to do 6 again, but you're going to go up by another 5 or 20 pounds, depending on, you know, what you're doing. So you're going to increase that weight again. That's going to be at a weight that you are doing 5. You're like at the 4th rep and you're like, holy crap, I don't know if I can do this 5th or 6th one, but you barely squeak it out with good form. And I always tell people, if you are at a heavy weight that you thought you could do, but you can only get 4 with good form, stop. That's good. I don't want you doing more and hurting yourself, because then you're not going to do any. So, and if you do all of those things, if you do all of those body parts, it's usually 30 minutes or less. And so you're not stressing your body too much. If you do an hour to 2 hour workout where you're really going, it's going to produce too much cortisol on you, and it's just going to cause an inflammation issue. So that's kind of where we start people, and it just really depends on their weight and, you know, where they're at athletically and that kind of stuff. But that's a general rule we have, is we just want them to focus on one area at a time.
Makes sense. I mean, I think for a lot of people that's doable versus trying to think about, and the fact that you said under 30 minutes, I think for a lot of people, they're thinking they've got to be in the gym for like 2 hours or more.
Right. And that's actually worse for you, because it breaks down your muscle too much. Right. And it stresses your body too much. And then you have that cortisol picture, and then you're gaining weight, and it's not all muscle because you're got all this extra cortisol going on.
It's so disheartening. I mean, I think for a lot of women, they want to just go in the gym and do, you know, the elliptical, or just bang out like, you know, some kind of bike ride, or keep running, because they've been doing that for so many years. And sadly,
it doesn't work.
Honestly, I just feel like the cardio starts driving too much cortisol as you get older. Not that you shouldn't be doing some cardio, but like the heavy cardio workouts that everyone was like, that's how you lose weight growing up, and all those messages is actually driving to cortisol pictures when you're older, and is leading to more issues than in actually improving anything.
Well, and if you want to add cardio, which you should have cardio, like my warm up before I go do the weights is actually a sprint warm up. So I do 1 minute of walking at 3 minutes. I do 1 minute of running at 7 miles per hour. And I do 1 minute of walking at 3 miles per hour, 1 minute of running at 7 miles per hour. And I do that for about 14 minutes. And that is my HIIT workout. It's sprint workout technically, because it's even, but that's how I get it. And I have lost so much more weight doing that just for that 14 minutes as my warm up before I go lift weights. And it doesn't stress me out as much. It doesn't give me that high cortisol picture.
Yeah. If you're going to do longer cardio routines, it should be like low intensity, moderate, like brisk walking, which is good for your cardiovascular system. And we should all do that, but that's not how you're going to lose weight.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting that you mentioned before a workout doing the sprint. It's something that I think a lot of people wouldn't think about. They would be thinking about, like the finisher kind of concept of things.
No, because like you don't want to do that, because when you're finished, hopefully your muscles are very tired, and you, especially on leg day, you don't want to. There's no way I could do it after leg day,
No,
but
I'm not sprinting on leg day.
Yeah, no, you need to warm up your muscles before you work out your muscles. So what better way to get your little, sprints or your HIIT workout in at the same time? I don't have time to go to the gym more than 4 days a week. I don't have the time. We run 3 businesses and we have kids. There's no way that we have the time to go more than that. So I get it in when I can. And I already have to do a warm up to warm up my muscles. Why not do that as my warm up? So it makes it easier for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's great to know, because I definitely think that for a lot of women, they're going to be like, oh, sprint first, then lift, because that's not what we hear as much. So, oh my goodness, such good stuff. Now, of course, I want to round it out in terms of bringing it all full circle, because we talked about muscle, we talked about some peptides, we talked about urolithin A, which now hopefully folks are all going to be like checking that out because it sounds fascinating. And yeah, it's a new thing, but hey, you guys are getting results, and that's what I love to hear, because there's one thing when the supplement companies are telling me stuff and I'm looking at research and I'm going, okay, but when I hear other folks talking about it, then I'm like, okay, I'll try it now I'll do a little N1 study, and then I'll tell me what they think. So what are some things that you guys would look at in terms of future proofing your health and longevity, and what would be like the non-negotiables that folks should be thinking about for that?
You want to take this one, since I just talked a lot?
Well, you can add in too. So the biggest thing, because I think about this all the time, because I am in my 30s. So I'm like, I want to feel this good as long as possible. So I am huge on nutrition. That is always like my number one, nutrition. And that means whole food diet, healthy fats, high protein, high fiber, and avoiding processed foods, avoiding food intolerances if you have them. Keeping your GI tract healthy is like the center of your health. So if you want to future-proof your health, you got to have a healthy GI tract. And so I always start there. The other thing is, after that, movement. Like we talked about how important movement is. If you want to future-proof health, you should start now. And it's easier to build muscle now than it is later.
But it's not too late to start.
Yes.
Ever.
Never too late to start, but if you're future-proofing stuff, starting now is better than pushing it off. So those are the biggest ones. And then stress. I mean, we talked about how stress impacts. We talked a lot about cortisol, and we didn't really get into all of it, but cortisol and stress just wrecks every bodily system. And so I usually try to, with myself, because like she said, we're running quite a few businesses, or I'm definitely not the perfect picture of no stress type of person. But I usually try to incorporate a non-negotiable every day. So that way I'm not in fight or flight all day long. I have 15 minutes a day, or that's my minimum. If you can get more, get more. But 15 minutes a day where you are present, and I don't care what you do that makes you feel present, but some like a period of time where you are not scrolling, you are not thinking about the future or what you should be doing or stressing about what happened yesterday. Like 15 minutes of literally just being present, whether that's a meditation, a walk,
reading a
book, because you can focus on that and be present in the story. Like, but yeah, just something like that. So those are like the biggest three things, like foundations of health that are going to future proof your health for longevity throughout life. And then all the things we talked about.
All right. Got it. And anything else there, Dr. Heidi?
I mean, okay. I feel like we're kind of being mean to cortisol. Cortisol is great. We do need cortisol. We need it high at certain moments. It's short term. It's great. The reason I brought up reading is because I cannot meditate. I cannot sit there. I'm not good at sitting still or relaxing. So my non-negotiable is I actually read at least probably a half hour to an hour when I'm in bed. And that's how I get my mind to shut off. You have to, neither one of us are really good about relaxing or doing any of the stress reduction techniques that we tell everybody else to do. We are very bad at it. And so I think that's our biggest struggle, but it is one of the biggest things that needs to be done. And I think everybody always forgets that because it's so simple, but yet it's so hard, because putting ourselves first and actually doing something for ourselves where we're sitting alone or we're, not taking care of everybody else at the time. I think we need to remind people that that is a huge thing, and you need to take that time in order to be the best person of yourself so that you can help other people.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. It's wild, the nervous system and cortisol, like reducing stress relieving techniques. Like, yeah, I'll agree. I definitely have had my own struggles with trying to get those nailed down, and just like you said, finding what resonates with you and what works. And that's definitely, at the end of the day, something that has to be part of the whole process, of the whole, I would say, whole longevity / anti-aging. I hate that word, but everyone else uses it, so I'm going to throw it in that category. Health optimization. Let's put it that way. Category.
Yes.
So as we round out this podcast, is there anything that I didn't ask you guys about that you're like, I really want folks like to take away from this? If they could do one thing, if they could focus on one thing that, from all of this, because we've got the non-negotiables that you guys mentioned. If there's one thing, what would be the one thing?
Find a practitioner that knows what they're talking about, to talk to them about all of these things that are going on with you and what you need to do to help it. I think the biggest thing is that people will go to TikTok or they'll go to Instagram or they'll just Google it, and then they end up doing the wrong things, thinking they're the right things, and then they get worse, and then other problems happen. It really needs to be with somebody who knows what they're talking about. Not all regular doctors know about peptides, or even, honestly, this is really sad, but hormone optimization, they don't know about either. So you really need to do your research and find somebody who actually knows what they're doing and talk to them about it. Tell them what is actually going on with your body, because it is very different for everybody. And Google and TikTok and Instagram are not going to tell you all the right things, because it might not be right for you, and it might be dangerous for you depending on what it is.
You might also not look at yourself as a whole person, because you're like, I have this one issue, and you might not see how these other things are connected and why you would need to be doing these things to get that to be better. And I feel like, not to mention the new ChatGPT doctor instead of Dr. Google.
Yeah.
They give you plans, but they're not, you put in what you thought was the problem. And if you're not, medically trained or have a background in health, then you might not be putting in all the things. So that's also why those things can fall short, and why talking to a doctor who can treat you as a whole person is going to be really beneficial.
Love it. Yes. Dr. Grok, Dr. ChatGPT, Dr. Claude. It's very wild out there these days.
Yeah.
Impressive. And we thought Dr. Google was one thing, but wow, whole new level. So of course, we got to tell folks where to find you too, and especially if they're in Washington State, because I've got a lot of Washington State folks that listen to the podcast, and we also have a lot of folks worldwide, and so I know you guys have a couple of different derivatives of your business. So tell us where they can find you, and then of course we got to talk about your podcast too.
Yeah.
You want to go?
Yeah, so you can find us. We treat people in Oregon and Washington via telemedicine at Blossoming Longevity. And so that is info@blossominglongevity.com if you want to email us, or just blossominglongevity.com is our website. You can also find Blossoming Longevity on like Instagram and Facebook. And then lastly, our podcast, Hormone Heroines, is on all the major podcast streaming, so YouTube, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and that's where we dive into all things hormones, but also cover other topics as well and how they relate to hormones. So if you're just looking to learn more about your hormones as well, you can just tune into that. But those are the main ways to reach us.
And to see you on there.
Yeah.
Because you were on our podcast too.
Yeah.
So they can come see you on there for more of a peptide talk.
Exactly. We'll make sure we get all that linked up in our podcast notes at Dr. spelled out JKRAUSEND.com. So, oh my gosh, Dr. Serena, Dr. Heidi, thank you so much for coming on and sharing such good stuff with my audience. And now I think everyone's going to be looking up Urolithin A. So thank you.
Yeah.
And so much on the hormones too, because, you know, there's so much info out there, and I love to like mine folks for what they're learning, what they're seeing, and just kind of keep the conversation open so that folks know that, yes, if we look to providers who have done their homework, know what's going on, we can get better info than just quick one-hit wonders on TikTok and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you two so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. We had a great time. Thank you.
All right. Hey, fellow health junkie. Thanks for listening to the Health Fix podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please help support me to get the word out about the podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review, and just get that word out. Thanks again for listening.